Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I'm really excited to see you all. I'm Kara Duffy. I am a business coach, consultant, and founder of Powerful Ladies, who we are co-hosting tonight with. And we're really excited to celebrate International Women's Month. And thank you to Soho Works and Ella and Vicky for being so amazing. We are recording this so we can also publish it as a podcast episode later. So there will be a mic being passed around when we have questions and interaction. As we go through tonight, get involved. If we're talking about something, you have a question, hand up, and we'll make sure you get included. It's really interactive. We have some amazing panelists tonight to talk all about trusting yourself. And the reason that this is the topic we're talking about tonight is because what I saw at the end of last year and the beginning of this year were so many clients freaking out about things that they knew the answers to. I was just giving people a lot of permission. And I realized, I'm like, what's happening right now that we are having this gap in self-trust? Why is this showing up? What's happening in the world? What are people getting preoccupied or distracted with? So we're here tonight to talk about that because I'm such a believer that if you trust yourself, you can have access to your extraordinary and ridiculous life, which is what I want you guys to have. So I will let our amazing guests introduce themselves tonight.
Oh yeah, hello. Hi, I'm Sierra Katow. I am a comedian, stand-up mostly, TV writer, and actor.
Hello everyone, my name is Natalia Trejos and I am a producer, actress, and author.
Hi everyone, my name is Cyann Ribeiro. I am an actor, author, and I'm also assistant general manager here. Hi.
Hi everyone, my name is Shadi Sadeghi. I am an East Coast native, first and foremost. And I am also a Jungian life coach as well as an emotion code practitioner.
And also 3 of our 4 panelists, hopefully soon all 4, have been Powerful Lady podcast guests. So if you want to learn more about them, subscribe and listen to the podcast. So to kick off the question for tonight, why have you had to trust yourself and ignore everything else that friends, family, partners, parents, the world has told you to do instead? When have you said, sure, not listening to you guys, I'm going that way?
Interesting. Yeah, I think, I got to credit, a lot of times my family's been really supportive in many ways, but I think what a lot of people, are curious about when they hear I'm a comedian or I do some more non-traditional careers, they do wonder like, why would you do that? I actually studied computer science in college. I kind of had a very studious way about me and was certainly looking at maybe a more traditional path in tech. But I think going against that and taking a chance on myself to pursue something a little different, it was sort of the thing of like, I didn't want to have regret. I also felt like, to a certain extent, you need to also honor yourself, and going forward, sure, maybe you might let someone else down, but I didn't want to let myself down. And when I made various decisions along the way to continue pursuing this, maybe gradually, I was also bolstered by people giving me more encouragement later on. But I think ultimately it was sort of knowing that like the person I have to sit with the most is going to be myself. So knowing that she'll give me a hard time the most, and my parents or friends or whoever will be there less, I think that actually helped a lot to be like, hey, let's listen to that person first, because yeah, we're gonna be hanging out with them too much,
Nice. For me, my story is really interesting because our parents always supported us, so they always saw like 2 stars. I think the nurse, when they had us, they said, you got a star, like right when we were born. So I don't know, I was raised with that mentality, and then with this Wonder Woman, you get to do the thing. And I was told that dreams are the way of life. So I didn't know difference. So I'm like, I have a dream of being first was a singer. So I'm a singer, and so I'll do all the talent shows, and I do this, do that. So I was always doing until society and life and time punch my bag where they're like, oh, there's a status quo. Oh, there's a 9 to 5. Oh, there's college. Oh, I have to go through all of this. I don't want to. I don't want to do that. I want to be free. And it's still unto this day, that's the way that I operate. So it took me a lot, of course, to understand I was living in an imaginary world, probably. And later on, I was just like, no, I'm just going to go for it because I was like, sad working in Chicago when we just came 23 years ago, and I was in a factory. I'm like, no, but I want to be an actress in Hollywood, this and that. And then I'm like, why am I not doing it? Why? What is it stopping me? My parents weren't, but they weren't aware that I wanted to go to Hollywood or whatever. So once I started telling them and communicating and everything, they're like, go, do it. And it was hard for me at the moment because my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And it's like, do I go to get my dreams? Do I not? And she's like, go, you're not a doctor. I'm going to get better. And now she's amazing, good, and healthy. Now she sees me do my dreams and I continue doing things. So I just always encourage people just go against all odds and also be a rebel. I think that that's the main thing. That's the main thing with my sister and I. We just really, and I wrote a book about this, that you really have to dream it, visualize it, plan it, put a date on it. That's the most important thing. Believe in it, and then you just go and take action one step at a time. But the most important thing is like, don't look to the right or to the left. If you're a Christian, that's in the Bible. Just keep going and just go with what is in your heart and gives you joy. Other than that, I think the world continues running, so doesn't matter.
I agree with you. Be a rebel. My parents always tell me, be safe when we get off the phone. And I always tell them, no, I'm going to be dangerous. But I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. And when I decided to move here for acting, you know, I was modeling at 22 and I came to LA and I told people I wanted to move here, but I wouldn't yet because I was still wild, because I was very self-aware. But when it was time to move here, I told my mom, I want to move to LA, what do you think? And she was like, you know, I came from West Africa and I didn't even speak English. And she was like, I think you'll be just fine. And my father was very like, you know, what about your boyfriend? And I was like, I'm not married. And he was like, all right. And my mom was like, you don't know Cyann very well. But I asked a friend of mine to move here with me, and she kept saying, what if we have to move back? What if we have to move back? And I kept telling her, I'm not moving back. Like, there is no what if we have to move back. I'm going to make it work. You know, I told her we got here on the 21st of February, and it's only 28 days in February, so I said I have 7 days to find an apartment. And, you know, a lot of people are renting out apartments last minute, so I found an apartment by March 1st. I stayed in a hotel for 7 days, and she left. She went back to Boston, but I stayed, and I told my mom, I'll just keep the apartment by myself. And I just knew I could do it. And about 2 weeks in, before I had to pay the whole rent, somebody said, hey, can I move in with you? And I said, yes, you can. So I was like, you know what? Trusting myself was probably the best thing I've ever done. I've now been here for 13 years, and I still live in my apartment.
So I'm going to be honest, actually. I played it safe most of my life. And I was also, I'm a daughter of immigrants. And, you know, your parents sacrifice everything to come here for the American dream. And then they say, okay, now the American dream is either be a dentist, a lawyer, a doctor, or marry rich. I mean, my parents did not. I wish they had taught me that. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, it's like those are the safe options. And especially culturally, I'm Iranian American, so that is, I'm sure all of you know an Iranian who's a doctor, a dentist, or an engineer. So I played it safe, and I was like, okay, well, if these are the options, then I went down the road of law and finance, and then eventually landed in international business development because I love travel. And so I was still not really stepping into my own and still playing it safe, and that's okay. And I was living in DC, and I was actually just meditating, and I had a vision of being on my deathbed. This was 3 years ago. I wasn't ill or anything, but I just had a vision of being on my deathbed. And I remember just seeing myself lying there thinking, I wish I had lived in Europe. I wish I just experienced living in Europe. and just being on my own and carrying like, you know, a baguette in a little bag and walking down the cobblestone streets. I just had that vision. And I looked around my apartment in DC and I was like, I don't have kids. I don't have a mortgage. I had a great apartment, but I didn't have a mortgage. I was like, I have nothing holding me back. I had a great job, but the job wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't from my soul. And I had been studying personal development. I had done therapy, and I had also, in the last 7 years specifically, I'd been studying Jungian psychology, and I became a certified coach just for fun, and never had any intentions of being a coach. And I was like, nothing's holding me back, and except me. And I'm like, if I know this stuff, so why don't I just make the leap? And I bought a one-way ticket to Italy. And I quit my job and I got rid of everything in my apartment, put it in storage or sold it. And that period is a blur. But that's when I went for it. And you know what's fascinating is I think because at that point, I was 40 at that point, and no one judged me. I didn't have any resistance. My family, my friends, everyone's like, this is amazing, go for it. So I had all of that support as well. And that's when I was like, I gotta launch my business. I gotta work for myself. This is the dream. I gotta go for it. There's no holding me back. So that's what I did. Wanting to hand it back.
There's a lot of people who, when they're on the podcast or they call me to start working together, they say that they have heard that they're supposed to do something else. There's like an itch or a whisper or something, like they know it's in there and they've been ignoring it. And it gets louder and louder and louder. And finally they say, I have to do it now. Has that been your experience with big things you've done in your life, that it's been there and it's been knocking and you're like, no, not yet, not yet?
Well, I ever since I was younger, I've always been like a English honor student. So I did really well in English in elementary school, high school, all the things. And I love to write and I love telling stories. And I just wrote for myself and I just never did anything with it. But in 2017, I got super heartbroken and I just was writing poetry all the time. And at that point, I was kind of like, I have so much poetry and so many stories that I could write a book. And I did. But it had taken me 30-something years to even get to that point. But it was like I was always writing, and people love hearing me tell stories and all these things. And it finally got to a point where I was like, I should probably do this instead of just keep talking about it, you know?
I think I can share a little personal story, well, maybe more personal than normal. So for 10 years, I was married. And it's my second marriage. So it's like, I'm not 70, I am 40. 2 marriages. So for a long time, all my 20s, I did my acting and all my stuff, performing and everything. And then when I got to 30, 31, I got married the second time for the 10 years. I put my acting dream on the side. And then I moved to LA. And at that moment, I'm like, okay, I'll put it on the side, just become a producer, I'll pay the bills like that, I'm married. I was kind of going into the normal 9 to 5, kids, dog, house, car. And I didn't get to the kids or the dog or the house. But after a period of time, and then it's like, this whisper of, but you're an actress, but you have a story to tell, but you have a voice, but why aren't you doing it? And then tears like this when I watch the Oscars or when I see my friends why am I not doing it? If I never had this fear, it was just I was in this box, I guess, I don't know. And so now that ended, that chapter ended a couple years ago, I was able to just go to that dream that was just there, sleeping, waiting for me, that I told them, I'll come back to you. So now I'm leaving it. I came back and I really got the courage and the leap to just go for it and do it. And now I'm auditioning for Netflix and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm freaking out. But I was able to like go grab it and I believe again that I have it, that I can do it. And why am I not doing it? The same thing that like that teenager, I'm like, why am I not going to do my dreams? The same kind of thing I had to say to myself at almost 40 at that time. And I'm about to be 41. So it's like, it's never too late to start again. And with that being said, at the same time with my sister starting the company, and it's just being like a whole ride. But at the end of the day, it's just go for it. I love what you said about the leap, because the leap is everything. Leap of faith. When you're more scared, jump faster. And then you're not scared anymore because you jump. So just jump faster. And then you'll find out all the answers, whenever there's something that is holding you, just go and kill the little dead body that you're carrying. And I think, once you are able to do that, you inspire a bunch of people along the way. You don't even know. I'm like, I'm just auditioning for Netflix, but I don't know what I am doing the thing, but I didn't know that I was inspiring this one or that one. And then they go and do their dream, so they inspire their own community. So that's what it's all about. It's like, at the end of the day, listen to the voice, and if it feels good, gives you joy, gets you connected with the little girl in your little boy, I think that the little boy and the little girl has a lot of answers. So,
Well, it's part. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, thank you. So I wanted to say that. The fear is always there. Like, I want to be clear. Like, we're not just sitting here because we have less fear. And the fear is always there. I'm scared. I have panic attacks all the time. I'm not going to lie. But I've studied the mind long enough to understand why that's happening. And it's expected. And that's what I take my clients through. Expect resistance, expect fear, expect to be scared, but don't buy into it. Don't let it stop you. That voice is going to be there, and feel it, and then just go through it and still take the leap. So, I think that the issue is that most people have big dreams and they want to go for it, and they usually do take the first step, and then they hit the wall of fear, and then they retract. And that's the difference, is just expect the fear and keep going.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, is making a decision that you don't listen to your parents, you don't listen to your friends unless they're supporting you and doing the thing with you. Like, you just go for it and you believe in it, and then just go for it. Yeah, thank you. Don't give up.
Well, you mentioned the 8-year-old you, and it's a question I ask everyone on the podcast, because I think there is something so important of coming back to that version of you, right when you're on that cusp of still believing anything is possible, having your imagination, but then also being able to function as an adult in some capacities, like make breakfast, and when growing up when I did a million years ago, ride your bike by yourself without a cell phone. And so there's like a level of having feet in both worlds. How often do you realize that you're making 8-year-old you proud?
Sure, I can go. Yeah, I mean, I think what's like, when I first started stand-up, I was 16, and I think going back to then, I'm very grateful to that person. I feel like I'm just speaking in third person a lot. I swear I don't do that much. When she was out there. No, it's not what I do. Yes. So Sierra was, yeah. No, I do think, like, it's, like, embarrassing. Like, most of the decisions I've made when I was younger and when we're all younger and right now all the time are pretty embarrassing. And so when you look back at it, you're like, oh my God, never could be me. But it was like, well, it was me. And thank God she did that, so that I can now kind of like, now I'm in this momentum where I just do comedy and I don't have to make that decision every day, versus, of course, I guess if I were to start now, I'm 29, I would go into it. It's a little bit scarier because you're just, maybe you've defined yourself as something already. I work as this, I don't work as a comedian. But having gone in with that because the younger self made that decision is great. Thinking about, your 8-year-old self and how they might have, I think it's a thing of like trying to keep that fresh in my mind of like, of course we kind of look at kids and maybe envy the fact that like, oh, back then it was like carefree, sure, a lot, hopefully carefree things in a good childhood. And the fact that like, you haven't had to maybe mature into a social environment where you're expected to play a certain role, or you just have fewer responsibilities. And I think, especially what you said about, when you realize, hey, I actually can move. I don't have a mortgage, I don't have kids. I think there's so much that we build onto ourselves to be like, well, it would change a lot if I decided to dye my hair blue, and it's like, really, it'd be fine. So I think realizing like, we can still embrace that. A lot of the holdups for like taking on even new things within what I'm doing. So for instance, I think comedy has evolved a lot. So there's a lot of adjusting even within it, at least from my perspective. So maybe I started doing stand-up and then, oh, hey, now we're actually posting things on YouTube. Oh, wait, now it's Instagram Reels. And every step of the way, every comedian who's a stand-up, resists that, especially if you've been doing it for a long time and you're like, oh, like the pure comedian, we just do the open mics and we do live shows only. But then some guy, blows up and, hey, well, that guy's on a billboard and he's selling out stadiums. So are you still going to say that you're a pure comedian and he's not, right? So I think even the next step of like, okay, I guess I got to post more on social media. It's pretty embarrassing, oh no. But it's like, ultimately, I think trying to allow on that micro level, like no one cares. If you were a kid and you looked at yourself as a kid doing that, you'd be like, oh, they're having fun. And let's not judge them for trying their best. And then you move on, right? Everybody forgets and is in their own world. So yes, that's a small version of that, I guess.
I mean, 8-year-old me I told my parents, I remember this very vividly. I was like, I want to be a banker or a model. And my mom said, why do you want to be a banker? And I was like, I want to make money. And she was like, bankers don't make money? And I was like, but they work in the bank. And she was like, they don't make any money. And I'm like, oh my God, then let me model instead. Because I'm like, Cindy Crawford looks like she has money. Naomi Campbell looks like she has money. I'm like, let me try this. And as much as I tried to model at 15, I'm not 5'8". It was kind of tough. I was going back and forth to New York all the time, lying, telling them I was 5'8". And then they're like, take off your shoes, honey. I'm like, all right. But I can't lie. Nowadays, I think 8-year-old me would be pretty impressed. Like, I've probably shot more than 40 national commercials at this point. I wrote books, and I'm a really good friend. Like, people love me. So I think 8-year-old me would be ecstatic right now.
Well, and you brought up something really interesting, which is that so often we think that our worth is based on what we've accomplished and done and what we're producing. So when have you trusted yourself to slow down or pause or like do a reset instead of just going forward all the time?
I can start with that. Recently, I just completely deleted hustle culture from my life. And I started, saying things to people, and I don't do, phone calls at this time, whatever it is, like boundaries. And it's because my therapist was like, you lost a lot of part of your femininity, or she taught me about the masculine energy because I'm a producer, so it's always like on time and this running. So all of that thing from the professional life in every day was being transferred in my personal life. So I was getting lost in the femininity, sensuality, sexuality, all the things that I've been learning is like, oh, I didn't know I lost them all. I thought being a woman is dressing and doing this. And of course, a few things that as a woman, I do. But the little essence things, that made me really stop was just really understanding that time is precious, but it's about living the life that you want and living your dreams, not hustling to then get to a place and then you enjoy it. So I started telling my sisters, like, why don't we live the life of our dreams every day? So if today we just had a successful meeting, plus we did this, we came to Power for Ladies event, we make our dreams come true for that day. So it becomes like, like a rule of life, every day I do something to take me closer to my other goals, but I'm enjoying every day because if tomorrow I die, I made my dreams come true. So I'm done, like in the sense of course I want to have more money and I want to have,
Don't be a banker.
I'm not going to be a banker. But, at the end of the day, it's just no hustle culture, guys.
So I'd love to add to that. That's so funny that you bring that up because just recently, in the last couple months, as of 2024, I also decided, I basically saw the BS that is fed to us, which is hustle culture. And even just seeing that word kind of triggers me now. and I think that entrepreneurs, coaches, women, even in the spiritual space are buying into that mentality. And ultimately, it's still ego. And the way that I live my life and the way that I coach is to align with your soul. and to align with a higher purpose. And that's not ego. Your ego is simply a defense mechanism. That's where the fear kicks in. So by knowing and understanding the mind, it's like, I know that hustle culture is just another aspect of ego, and ego is never going to be satisfied. We all have an ego. It's like the overprotective bodyguard at the door of our soul that's like, no, we can't do this. It's the negative chatter. And hustle culture feeds into that. It's the never enough. It's the unworthiness crap that is internally in our heads. And most of us don't even know it, but that is the root that is driving the feelings, the thoughts, the actions, the behaviors. That's like, I have to hustle. I have to make more money. And it'll never be satisfied. But when your work is aligned with your purpose and something bigger, and it doesn't have to be something, I shouldn't say this, it doesn't have to be something noble, right? I mean, that feeds into it too. But for me, my purpose is expressing myself and whatever sparks my joy, like what you just said. So as long as it's aligned with that, then you are actually satiating that inner child that you talked about it. And you're not feeding the ego, because the ego is never going to be satisfied.
Well, we're fed so much today about what we should do and how we should do it. I mean, there's anyone who wants to start a business, you go on Instagram and you want to cry because you say, I never will have time to do any of these things that they're telling me I have to do. So how do you pick and choose what feels right? I think talking about how comedy's changed, they're telling you the same thing, that you need all these things now. So how are you actively choosing, that is good for where I'm going and is in alignment with me?
Yeah, I feel like it's such a trial and error thing. I think everybody has different things that work for them. I think it has to be the thing too, where it's like, sure, you can check all the boxes, but then if you burn out tomorrow, like, who cares, right? So I think there's a lot of like, okay, I got to figure out which of these boxes I can check without burning out, but then also which ones I'm not just saying, oh, maybe that'll burn me out, even though I'm just like embarrassed to start that one. I don't want to post on social media. Okay, but yeah, I do think like it's also the situation where it does feel like anytime I'm doing something, like for a while, for instance, I think I because I like to do a lot of things, so there's like the stand-up comedy of it all, which feeds into like the writing too, and then sometimes the acting. Like, I actually really enjoy writing, but I think sometimes when I'm writing, I go and I look, oh man, I wish I could be doing stand-up right now. That looks kind of fun, And I think when I was taking on lots of these things, it felt very much like, okay, this is great. I'm somebody who likes to do different things and spread it out. And maybe if one area in my life is not going so well, maybe the other areas will go better, so I can kind of always be covered. Not, I think that's the hustler thinking a little bit, right? Because ultimately what would happen is I'm writing in a room and that's a great job to have, but I can't help but look over my shoulder and be like, oh, but all those people are really skyrocketing in their stand-up careers. I'm missing out on that, is the kind of grass is always greener feel. So I think, I know, and it hasn't happened yet, but there will come a time when I will need to decide what is the best, and it can't, come from just what makes the most money. It can't be banking ultimately. I got to drop that. But it has to come from like what actually is, most fulfilling. And hopefully the one thing that I'm not looking over my shoulder while I'm doing it, which, hey, I don't know what that is. Does anybody know? But yeah, so I think it's sort of a thing where well, I don't know, you tell me. Basically, I'm saying, what? How do you do that?
Yeah, we were talking about when there's so many things that you could be doing or people are saying you should do, how do you choose which ones are actually in alignment for you versus what works for somebody else?
So when I say soul, it's not something in the sky. I mean, we all have an internal GPS. We all have an internal guidance system, and it's called intuition. It's another word for intuition. And the more and more you start to go towards things that feel good and exciting, then the stronger the intuition gets. And And I know it sounds pie in the sky out there, but that is truly what I use to go towards what feels right and aligned for my work. Also, it's important to visualize and have a vision of what you want. So ultimately, if you want to get to from point A, not till point like D or E, your intuition is guiding you there when you set the intention and when you know that's where you ultimately want to go. The steps that you take are going to lead you there inevitably. And if they don't, then that's where shadow work comes into play.
Or a business coach.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just have to add to that. Is purpose for me. Purpose maps out the dream, maps out, where you're going and what's the right thing, that intuition, everything gets connected because, again, you have such a screening thing about that one thing that you should do that if it's not aligned with the purpose, why am I doing it, So, I think that everything that I try to do, although we're multi-passionate and we can wear many hats and we can do many things, I think that at the end of the day, you always put your energy to the one thing that is going to take you to the next thing that you really want to connect you to the other thing to take you to a bigger purpose. But I think as long as you think big and you dream big and your purpose is big and is, one of my coaches said, we came to this world for three things: to love, to grow, and to heal, and to serve. And I think that's the most important thing in purpose. If you come in, you are able to serve at the end of the day. Make sure that whatever dream or task or thing you're doing is part of that thing, and then just do one thing at a time and develop that thing until it's running. Then you go to the next one, develop the thing until it's running. Then you have many machines running, but you're not going crazy. And that's why people cannot multitask sometimes and stuff like that. I mean, it takes, of course, a little bit of experience and going in the field and making mistakes. But at the end of the day, I think saying a lot of no, for a lot of other things that come your way. And it's not, my time is this is what I have. And I plan like an entire year sometimes. And then it's like, this is the steps that I leave room for, for other things. But at the end of the day, I think if we make sure that the purpose is there, then it kind of guides you with the GPS. That was really. I'm gonna copy some of your in my pocket.
I saw this quote online years ago, and it just kind of stuck with me. But it's one of those things that it says, if somebody asks you to do something, or if there's something that you want to do, and you don't feel like, fuck yes, I want to do it, then don't do it. If you're kind of like maybe, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. But if you're like, hell yeah, I want to do it, then go for it.
That reminds me of a quote I had cut out of a magazine and hung on my wall as a teenager. It was actually from Brad Pitt. Who knows if this is an accurate quote? But it said, if you're making decisions based on fear, you're already fucked.
Right.
And I was like, okay, Brad, thank you. Put that in my back pocket. So that brings me to the question of, has there been a moment when you didn't listen to yourself and you regretted it? Like it caused some trouble?
Yes, for 10 years. But it's over. That was short. I took too much.
She went there.
That's good. No, yeah, no, that's real. I think a lot of like things that I started to do when I was, first moving out to LA, wanting to just learn and do anything. There was a lot of like, oh, maybe I'll work with this person on a writing project, or maybe we'll start this random little project, or maybe we'll start this live show. And, I think I did learn things, various small tidbits, but overall, I eventually realized I think I was just scared to say no and scared to like, if there's a particular person I, worked with, and initially it was sort of like, I don't know if they're really my vibe, but why not? It seems like they know more about this than I do. And then really at the end of the day, you realize like, everybody doesn't really know anything. So you might as well just go by vibe, So I think that's, I would have wanted to, and now I do, I think, be more discerning about who I work with and spend time with.
In 2014, somebody told me to buy Bitcoin. It was $240. And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And now I'm kind of upset. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little upset.
Your chance to be a banker.
Right. A Bitcoin banker, right.
So there are lots of people who wish they had the courage or bravery that you guys have had. They wish they had the knowing in such a strong way to take the leap, to move to LA, to, pivot from what you were doing in college into a comedy career, even though you started before. But so for people who aren't sure if they're tapped into that knowing and that self-trust, how can they get there?
Okay. I was just talking to my sister earlier. I think study. I think if you really prepare yourself in that one thing that even if you don't know what it is about, but it's calling your attention. I hear this a lot from coaches that they had it in them, but they didn't know. They were in a 9 to 5, they were bored, blah, blah, blah. And now they are a coach and they're living their dream, coaching people. But they had to go through a whole curriculum and learning, getting the license or whatnot. And I think at the end of the day, everything that you do in life, if you prepare yourself, you ask a lot of questions, you ask for an internship or like ask to partner up with somebody, I think that's super important to get you to where you want to be if you are working at a bank right now. And then, but your dream is to be in media. We actually have 2 interns right now. That's exactly what, one is in a dentist's office and the other one, I don't know where she works right now, but she's a journalist, but she's now working at some restaurant or something, but she wants to intern with us to learn about media. So I'm like, great job. So we empower them and then we use them as an example, so that you can go and learn skills and make mistakes again and then just go for it. And then there comes a decision that you have to leave your 9 to 5, create a plan with at least 6 months of your rent and your bills, and then what is it that you're gonna do first, second, and 10, and then go one step at a time. But just continue on building and going and putting yourself out there so you can build thick skin, because the street is really raw, is really mean, but if you stand for yourself and you know who you are, with all those skills, even if you have an accent, you are the boss. No matter what. And at the end of the day, you still keep it humble because at the end of the day, you want community, you want everybody, but you're not, focusing on the insecurities that, you might not even have them, but it's other people's insecurities and comments that might take you down. So at the end of the day, it's like, no. I believe in myself, I do this thing, I go for it, how you do this, how, tell me, and then go for it. So I think study, be a little bit of a nerd, and then just take action, yeah.
So the truth is, your knowing knows. Your knowing knows, and probably you're going to parties, you're seeing somebody on Instagram, and there is this longing in you that's like, I want to do that. I wish I could do that. Well, how do they do it? That is the thread. And you got to tug on that thread. And it doesn't have to be a drastic jump, like I said. It doesn't have to be like what I said, I don't do what I did. Like, quitting your job, buying the one-way ticket, all that stuff. If you're adventurous, bold, do it. But it doesn't have to be that. It can just be, okay, well, this person travels a lot. Maybe I can find a job that incorporates travel into the business or into the work. Just pull on that thread. Your knowing knows, and it's going to show up for you in conversations. You're going to see it, and it's like your unconscious mind is telling you, it's poking you, like, see, I'm going to keep showing up until you decide to make a step towards me. And your knowing knows.
I think that if you love yourself fully, it's easier to trust yourself. I think a lot of us don't even spend time loving ourselves. We're giving love to all these other people and doing all these things for other people. But I think when you spend time to get to know yourself, love yourself, build your self-awareness, then it's a little easier for you to trust yourself.
I love that. So when you say love yourself, what are some tangible examples of how do you spend time loving yourself?
Well, personally, I get 8 hours of sleep. I don't let anybody stop me from getting 8 hours of sleep. I've never been a person who overworks. I was just never been a person that was like, I'm going to work 2 jobs, because that's taxing on your body, your mind, everything. I seen my parents do it. It just wasn't something I ever told myself I was going to do. I've had jobs where bosses have been like, no, you can't have this time off for your audition. Then I quit. because this is my life. And, I have to put me first. That's loving myself. I have to take care of myself. I have to eat right. I have to drink enough water. I have to do all the things that make me feel good, physically as well. And I have to talk to myself the right way. It's positive words. We don't even realize how strong the words. Sometimes you're laughing. I don't even say to my friends anymore when I'm laughing at something like, oh my God, I'm dying with laughter. I don't even want to die with laughter, okay? I'm cracking up. I'm living with laughter. Like, you just have to be so mindful of the things that you say. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2022. And a few months before that, a friend of mine had told me I had breast cancer in 2020. And that's why I cut my hair. I didn't tell anybody. And then she was like, but they gave me, she had a mastectomy and they gave her liposuction, and did a fat transfer to her boobs. And to myself, I was like, oh my God, I want that. And next thing you know, I had breast cancer. I said, gosh, you really have to be careful with what you say. Because all I wanted was the boobs. And my God. But like I said, I think we just need to be really mindful about the way we treat ourselves, because sometimes we're like, oh, this person treats me bad or other people treat me bad. But a lot of times people treat you how you treat yourself.
There's on my board of other business or project ideas is an Oops, I Manifested Instagram account. So we'll be calling to talk about that one.
Now you're getting into my territory, girl. Manifestation. We're manifesting all the time, you guys. FYI, whether you're conscious of it or you're not conscious of it, we are manifesting everything. You manifested this experience, the people you're talking to, all of it.
Well, and what I liked as well about the manifesting part is that it's moving scientifically from woo-woo to neuroscience. There's all these studies that if you tell yourself, I'm a millionaire, and you're not, your brain goes, you're lying, I've seen your bank account. But because you said it, and if you keep saying it, it'll pay attention when there's opportunities to make it happen. So I love that there's all the neuroscience supporting what we think about and the words we say and everything else, because I think some people have been resistant to it. And I have plenty of clients who are really good manifestors, and I say, okay, but we're gonna need to do some on-planet actions now, because our manifesting has to be supported by the work and the practice and actually moving or leaving your house if you want to ever meet a client or a partner. So I do think that's really important, and the words matter so much.
Inspired action. Mm-hmm. You need inspired action along with all the woo-woo stuff. The woo-woo stuff is fine, no judgment, but you need inspired action.
Yeah. So I want to open it up to some questions. Where do you guys want to talk or ask or get support on trusting yourselves and tapping into that to take brave actions? And Kendra has a mic, so she'll come to you.
Thank you so much for such an inspiring panel. I think a common theme I noticed amongst everything that you spoke about is this certainty and this conviction that you all work with and you all possess. And obviously hearing your stories, it's not something that necessarily came innate or naturally, but it's something that you all developed. So I guess my question is, where does this certainty and this conviction come from? How do you channel it in moments of weakness when you don't trust yourself at all? And even if it's a moment of faking it till you make it, how do you have that courage to keep pushing through? And obviously it in turn manifests, but how do you take that leap and make that step?
Can I answer this? Okay. No, because I'm excited because I still have to work with myself. And I also have a coach too, but that person's not living with me all the time. So the conviction it's cultivated over time. So self-trust is cultivated over time with every step forward. And your mind sees evidence like, oh, wow, okay, I'm getting this return. Or, oh, I did this and this is what I'm getting back. Yay, okay. And then that builds more trust, and then you take the next step forward. It's literally as simple as that, just taking one step forward. But you also want to be clear about what you want. And a lot of people still are muddled about what they want because that ego kicks in and is like, no, but everyone in my family was a doctor, and oh my God, and I have to do this, and how could I just quit everything? So So know what you want and work on that piece of it. And that's where the unconscious work comes into play, the shadow work, which is working with the emotions. So whatever if you're feeling like crap, feel it. Feel it and then say, I don't want to take action. Okay, wait, let me try tomorrow. Or let me try this afternoon. So you want to feel it. Don't plow through. You can't willpower your way, but it helps to just take one step forward. Feel the resistance, feel the pain, feel the fear, whatever it is. Sit with it. We don't do this enough as human beings on this planet. It's just a feeling in the body. Just sit with it. And then say, okay, what do I want? All right, that's what I want. I'm going to take a step towards that.
That's really good. You want me to answer the same or another question? No, just to add to that, for me, when I discovered journaling, like actually writing your dreams, your thoughts, this is something my sister taught me, and I didn't do that before. I will write like outlines and stuff like that. And then in between all of that, I discovered 3 questions and I answered them a lot, like maybe once a year because I've grown so much in 1 year. So the 3 questions are, who am I, what do I want, and where am I going? Those 3 questions are so difficult to answer, but if you really sit down with yourself and then you answer those questions and dig deep, and then of course you have to confront yourself and say, okay, who am I? What do I want? Like, why am I here? Do I have a message? What is it that I want to do? So you start digging inside yourself, and that's how you start building this trust in yourself. Oh my God, I have a voice. Oh my God, the people need to hear what I have to say because I might save a life. So when I understood that, I just really never went back, and I'm not trusting myself because I'm like, oh my God, I was brought to the earth with a message, and I'm a messenger maybe, and then I think that I have to share. So there's a lot of like jokes in social media that say you are not being fair to the other people by keeping I don't know exactly that, you know what I'm saying, right? Like keeping the knowledge that you have in you and by not sharing it. So, but the way to build that from scratch, because I know a lot of people who still do to struggle with like worthiness, imposter syndrome, and all these other things, you have to continue digging into that and like, okay, why am I good? Okay, what I have to say is good, right? Is good, right? Then you're gonna confirm with yourself. You have to do some little, steps here and there, but come back to those questions and then purpose and all build up, work on yourself. And I think getting a coach for me was a life-changing experience because I was like on my own flying like this. Then when I found a coach and then a second, a third, probably now is my 10th that I go through, business coach, life coach, this coach. And, so I think that's also good because they help you in life and you guys know this, so.
I'm such a firm believer that people are waiting for you to step into your power. And it's part of why Powerful Ladies is a whole continuing growing group. It's why there's multiple women here, because someone might relate to my story. They might relate to their story. Like someone's waiting to hear you do it and to see it done your way. That's why there's also room for everyone. Like the idea of competition and not enough and scarcity is just a bunch of BS. But if you are looking for how do I find that clarity or what I really want, I tell people to pay attention to when you get mad and frustrated or really excited. Where are the extremes? Because in the middle, it's a bunch of just fine, but we don't want to be living in fine. So every business I've ever created has been that's awesome or that's stupid. Like those are the 2 things that have started me to create something. So look at where you're finding polarity in how you're interacting with things, but finding a coach or a community, finding someone here as an accountability buddy to start talking to about it will start changing everything.
Hi, my name is Marissa.
Oh, sorry.
Take 2. My name is Marissa. My question is when, the overwhelm of life inevitably comes, or when you're juggling a lot of different things at once and, can't keep all of the plates spinning in the air, or like shit hits the fan, or you've got a bad, medical prognosis or something like that. How do you navigate through that? Like, what do you prioritize? How do you decide what to prioritize? I would love to know when it's not all like, I'm on my journey and I feel great about it. Like, how do you navigate back to that feeling of, yeah.
Well, funny story. I was preparing for an audition. I was about to shoot an audition when my doctor called me and told me I had breast cancer. But my friend was already on her way to help me with the audition. So when she got in the house, I said, hey, let's do this audition, because that's what I needed to do. And she was like, they just called me from the job that you called out from work. And I was like, damn it. So now I have to tell her. So then I said, okay, they just told me I had breast cancer, but I have to do this audition, so I can't talk about this right now, so let's just do this audition. And she said, well, all right. And then after the audition, she said, how do you want me to treat you? And I said, just like you treated me yesterday, because I had breast cancer yesterday. I just found out today. But the thing is it was like super scary. And I told my sister, it's scary and it sucks. And I cried, you know? And I feel like if you're sad or something scary, you should cry. You know, just like she said, you should feel your way through it. Like, I don't think there's any, you know, bypassing your feelings. And when people tell you that you're strong, or like if somebody were to come up to you right now and be like, oh my God, you're so strong, it's probably because you've been through so much shit that made you strong, you know? But acting like you didn't go through anything or acting like nothing bothers you, that doesn't make you strong. And it doesn't make anything better, you know? So I just feel like you just have to feel it, you know? Because if on any given day, all you have is 15% to give, you gave 100%. So I think that's all you have to do. I think we need to learn how to not make assumptions and not take things personally. And when you're going through things, you tell the people that you know care about you, and let them care about you, and let them help you. Because in your strongest, you probably help them. But now when you need it, you got to let them help you too.
So regarding overwhelm, I wanted to say, I would actually, I know this sounds silly, but talk to the overwhelm in you and ask it what it's afraid of. Because there's an aspect of you that is creating overwhelm and chaos to keep you from doing something. So ask it, what does it need? Like as if it's a separate person. And give it what it needs. And see it for what it is. It's afraid of something. And sometimes just acknowledging that will actually quell it and bring it down.
How many of you have said, I don't know, when asked what you should do, but you really knew? By show of hands. Yeah. Usually when someone's saying, I don't know what to do, you do know, you just don't want to do it because you don't like the answer. Because it means you have to do something brave or scary, or, you know, maybe get rid of a client, might be talking to the front row. Yeah. So I think, you know, you were from a tactical perspective, Marissa, I think I like the idea of involving team members and asking for help. Because how many of you guys have a team, right? How many of you call someone when you need help? Who's it hard? Like, I'm someone who's like, it's so hard if I need help, I forget to ask for help because I'm always giving it. So if we're overwhelmed, it probably means we need a team. Yeah. I saw some other hands. Yes.
Okay, first off, I can't express to you, all of you, including the host, my gratitude for just how much, I don't know, attentiveness to detail you put in the questions and the answers, and just how thoughtful everything's been. It's so fruitful. My question matched with the other in terms of when you have that inner self-doubt. I'm a numbers person. I'm kind of just wondering, like, how many times you have to combat that inner voice, that inner critic, in order to overcome it? If you could put a number on it, or...
And are you asking in the sense that if it keeps being a no, maybe it's not the right path? So, like, when do I know if it's the right path or the wrong path?
If I could narrate kind of the way that it goes in my mind, for instance, it's more of the vision that you have that goes north, it's the opposite of that. It's like the vision that goes south, maybe the underlying pattern of like sabotage or etc. Just like Shadi, had you mentioned not dealing with what's in front of you and your mind's kind of just circling around that. How many times do you have to confront it, and whether it's through affirmations and so forth, in order for it to just dim down completely, to dim that light or shadow?
So this is where the emotion work and the shadow work comes into play. And sitting with it and facing the self-doubt is what actually brings it down and quells it, and facing it head on and talking to it and integrating the emotional feeling. And I know it sounds oversimplified, but it's truly this simple. And the more we sit with that self-doubt and face the fire, I tell my clients, walk through the fire. And what if everything goes wrong? What if you make a mistake? What if you go south instead of north? What is so bad about that? And it's like you start pulling at that thread and you start to see that you as a competent, we are infinite consciousness, all of us in human form. And I know that's really out there, but this is the truth. We are so much bigger than the self-doubt and self-fear. And when you confront it, what you think is a monster will all of a sudden become this little teeny tiny thing. And it's built up in our minds. So until we face it, we don't really see how small it actually is. And every time when you face it, it gets smaller and smaller. But also, and this is another thing that I discovered in the last year, emotion code. I'm an emotion code practitioner, and I discovered this energy modality that helps to release the trapped emotions. So for some of us, I know it's a loop, and I lived in that too, particularly I think when you start to enter generational trauma, generational conditioning territory, you start to feel like, wait a minute, the self-doubt doesn't feel mine. It's like this, it just keeps coming back, but is this like an ancestor? What is this? The emotion code helped me with that, and it's releasing trapped emotion. So sometimes when you do that, you just, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I feel so much lighter, and the anxiety or the self-doubt is completely gone.
How do you guys get out of loops when you're stuck in a place that's not you being strong and positive?
Yeah, I think also when you're saying numbers, I was like, numbers, computers, remember that? No, but I do think going at, like, I have a lot of interesting hangups about, I feel like the longer we try at a thing and maybe we're not hitting that goal that we thought we were going to hit like 5 years ago and then becomes 6 years ago. And that sort of buildup actually gets worse with the number of times that, that I've either gone up against something, auditioned for something or whatever, right? And so I feel like, especially in, in the areas too where statistics end up getting like really bleak, it's sort of like, you gotta just, kind of like, I have to do the goldfish method of like, brand new day. Imagine just entering in it with as much innocence as the first day I did, and suddenly I'm a little lighter, and maybe, actually I'm approaching it a little bit less jaded than before. Easier said than done, but yeah.
Tricky. I think for me is focusing on something that gives you like a dream. I'm always focused on like a dream that I have to do. So when I was going through my separation, everything was falling in front of me, like from changing my last name to have to go to the court, Social Security, all these things. So anything that is a priority, just like fix it. So the priority that is might not let you, flip the page or whatever. Just anything that is bothering you at the moment, just that is technical, that is like, uncomfortable. Try to figure it out, because that's more like a task, and then you can focus on the emotions and on the thing that I'm feeling. Why am I doubting and overthinking and all this stuff? And then I think that focus on one thing and putting a lot of love on that one thing that you want to do. If you want to paint, if you want to do exercise, go to the gym, like maybe one thing, so that you don't think about that other thing that is bothering you, and those voices, you can silence the voices. And then you can start releasing and just focusing on what is this outcome, where is the light, where is it that I want, and again, write the 3 questions and then just do work on you. But I think for me, I don't know if I'm answering correctly, but for me, it's just, I just focus on something and okay, priorities, and then focus on the dream to fulfill me a little bit. And then priorities, boring, call Kaiser, and then the thing of my dream, so I guess that's how I do it. I don't have a technical way.
My name's Tata. Thank you guys so much. This has been amazing. My question's a little bit different. So let's say you started your business and you leaped, right? And the net caught you and you've had success for a decade. But then you're met with heavy resistance. At what point do you say, I'm going to pivot and listen to this little voice and do something different, but then you still need to pay the bills and survive, right? So like the whole reason why you ended up in that business was kind of by chance, not because I woke up one day and I was like, I'm going to leave my 9 to 5 and start my own company, right? So like at what point do you continue, like, do you think it's a sign, I guess, if you're met with resistance and maybe you should take a different path, or do you continue down the same path? I don't know if that made any sense, but.
I mean, I guess it depends on how much resistance you're really facing, you know, because I think it's a blessing when you can pivot, you know, if you can pivot. Because I was, like I said, I was trying to model. And at 24, they were like, ma'am, you're getting too old to model. I said, I'm 24 years old. What do you mean I'm getting too old to model? And they said, you're getting too old. You should consider acting. And I was like, this is so weird. I've never, like, people model at every age. But I was just kind of like, okay, then I'll move to LA and I'll get into acting, you know? But like I said, I was already getting all this resistance. Like, you're not tall enough. You're not this. You're not that. And I was just kind of like, well, there is no height requirement for acting. So, and age, so let me move, you know? So it's like, if you've been running a business for 10 years and it was great, and right now, I mean, things have changed and things change all the time. Change is literally the only constant, you know? And sometimes you just have to go with it, you know? They even say the most popular people in high school, they're just adaptable. It's not that they're cooler than anybody else. They're just adapting to everybody's personality, and that's why they're so popular. But I think that's what life is. You just have to adapt and keep going.
I think also when you have been in business that long, it's really important to kind of assemble your counsel to talk through it, because it's so easy to get stuck in our own heads. And no matter how much work you've done, you will always have days of resistance and overwhelm and exhaustion. And the same things echo back. You're like, I thought I dealt with that, damn it. So who's your trusted counsel that you can call on to say, am I crazy? Is this right? Should I pivot? You know, I was recording before you guys got here a social media clip we're going to post later about why self-trust matters so much. And one of the things I said was knowing when to leave, knowing when to let it go. We get so attached to a job, a title, a business, a relationship, a product even, where we live. And so knowing when you have to let something go, and then who's your counsel to make sure you let go as gracefully as possible? Because like, you're not cooked. There's so many other things to do. You can move to Italy. Like, sometimes it's good to run away and shake things up and see what else happens. Because when I was in college, they said you'd have 7 careers. Now it's even more. So if you haven't hit your 3rd, 4th career yet, you might have been missing something that was fun if you weren't keeping your head up and looking. But we also need to pay attention when fear and ego is telling us to run away, when really it's just challenging us of how big do you really want this? So I think that's why we need the counsel to balance that out a little bit.
I want to add to this. I would say, what's your why? Why did you start the business in the first place? And not from judgment, because look, we're like, you know, I'm going to hit a ceiling if I work in corporate, so I'm going to make more money. So it's fine. Just be honest with yourself about your why. And it could be, if you're hitting a wall, if you're hitting resistance, that your why needs to evolve. So our business is an extension of ourselves. So if it hits a wall, it means your own internal evolution maybe you need to evolve. Your why needs to evolve.
Yeah, and to know that you deserve it, that you deserve bigger things, that you deserve, you know, better, and to pivot and to just leave or whatever you have to do. And that all goes back to self-love too. Because if I feel worthy, if I love myself, they don't deserve me, or I don't deserve this, I deserve all of this, and you continue believing in that, I think that's really important with your why and all of that. So it's cool.
So we'll have some time to ask more questions and talk to each other after this, but I want to make sure that all of my amazing guests get to brag about themselves a little bit. So where can everybody find you, follow you, support you? What's next for you? What do we need to hold space for you? Kick it off.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, so I am on social media where I will be posting more after today. Don't you worry. Trusted myself on that. It's my name at Sierra Katow, Sierra Katow. And I also filmed a comedy special last year that Kara was at. And it's coming out in a month. So if you follow me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, more details to come.
Okay. There's a lot of good things happening right now. We have a TV show and a podcast called Pink Cafe, and we're pivot. We decided to go and leave the network at where we had it in national television and everything, and it's becoming now Pink Cafe Unfiltered, so that we can open the room to more amazing women, because we were only doing to Latinas. So we're like, what about the other women? So it was this whole other thing with my sisters, like, no. All women are welcome, and then so we're doing it our way and everything. So that's very exciting, because it's been a long time, and my sister is now the CEO of Pink Cafe. And it's just beautiful because we're sisters, so it's like an extra story. It's like we're sisters and we have so it's super cool. And just doing projects on my own with acting. I'm coming back and I'm doing all these auditions. I am really still processing everything. I'm good from my other story, so don't worry. I am thriving, and and I have a nephew. And and you can find me on Instagram at Natalia Trejos _. And I'm excited to be here, and thank you so much for this invitation. It was an honor.
Hi. I'm Cyann Ribeiro. My Instagram is at MSCYANN. It's the same thing on Facebook. It's the same thing on Twitter or X or whatever they call it now. My website is CyannRibeiro.com. So CyannRibeiro.com. I do have a book on there called She's Too Positive. It is the memoir I wrote while I was going through cancer, chemotherapy, mastectomy, implants, all the things. And it's being sold on there. I also, one of my best friend's siblings passed away 5 years ago, and I started writing a prayer to her every morning because she lives in Boston. I just wanted to comfort her somehow. And somewhere along the way, I'm now sending this text message to like 60 people every morning. So I write it every day and I send it out to people every day, but I did create prayer cards that are on my website. They're 21 in a deck, so they'll be by your bedside if you grab one every day. It's 21 because 21 days takes 21 days to make a habit. So, but yeah, CyannRibeiro.com.
I'm Shadi, and the best way to get in touch with me is on Instagram or email. And my Instagram is at thislifefulfilled. And email is my first name, SHADI, at Intuit, INTUIT -coaching.com. And I have a few big things coming up. I love hearing from people, so please reach out if this calls to you, if there's anything interesting about this. I take new clients on the coaching side as well as the emotion code side. If that is interesting to you, I'd be happy to tell you more about it.
So we have a couple of things to let you know before we let you go. One is that next Wednesday, I will be here doing a coaching pop-up. So anyone who is a member, or if you really want to get in, ask one of the ladies here. But I'll be doing coaching pop-ups for free for anyone who wants some business support. Also, please be subscribing to the Powerful Ladies podcast if you're not already. You get to hear 3 of these stories and soon, hopefully, a 4th. And there's so much there. But we have some QR codes around the table, because we're continuing this conversation on March 21st at our next event. It'll be in Orange County, and we have a guest speaker talking about going from trusting yourself to taking brave action. And that'll be really amazing as well. There's also a QR code if you'd like to work with me or talk about your business. I'd be happy to talk to you as well. So thank you guys so much for being here. Coming out in LA in the rain is a big deal. So please make sure you're networking, getting friends, getting business cards, because this is a group that you want to keep hanging out with, I promise. Thank you.
Thanks, Kara. Yeah, thanks, Kara.